Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is another one of our town versus town comparison videos, and this is gonna be a big one. We are comparing Sacramento versus Placerville, California today. Now, I know thinking about comparing a downtown city type place to a rural place might seem a little bit crazy and a little bit apples to oranges comparison, but hear me out. Over the last 20 years of selling homes in both these counties, I've had a tremendous amount of people make the decision to move up from the city to Placerville to be in a more rural environment. So it is actually a pretty common decision for people trying to decide between Sacramento and Placerville, or trying to decide to leave one or the other, whether that's leaving Sacramento to move to Placerville to be more rural, or maybe leaving Placerville to move to Sacramento for more job opportunity. Either way, these two communities are compared more than you might think. So I'm gonna run you through 8 critical criteria so you can decide which one of these communities is best for your family. Starting with criteria number 1, community vibe or feel. So like I said, criteria number 1 is community vibe or feel. And this one, they couldn't really be more different of a place. Sacramento, not the greater Sacramento area here, because there's a lot of different suburbs and even some rural parts of Sacramento area and Sacramento County, but I'm talking about Sacramento proper. The downtown Sacramento area is an urban environment, fast-paced, packed city streets, traffic, the whole 9 yards. It's a city. It's one of the major metro areas in the state of California. Placerville, by contrast, is a sleepy, small, little rural town with a quaint 1800s era downtown that looks like you're kind of in a time warp in a way. So these two places are wildly different. There is a lot more access to things like nightlife and jobs and community events and all of that in Sacramento, like you would expect from a big city. And Placerville, by contrast, is a lot slower, a lot less going on, a lot less options for restaurants and nightlife and entertainment and all of that. So this really comes down to what kind of environment you're looking to live in for your family. Do you want the big city and all the awesome things that go with that, food from every culture in the world? You can eat at a different restaurant every night of the week. You can have live music every night of the week and big cultural and community events. Then Sacramento is going to be your jam. If you want a sleepy little slice of Americana in the foothills where it feels like you're in a small town environment where everybody knows everybody and there's a lot of outdoor recreation to be had, then Placerville is going to be your type of place. Now, criteria number 2 when comparing these two communities, or any community at all that you're thinking about living in, is home costs. If you're moving here, you're likely gonna buy a home here. And so what does it cost to buy a home in these two different areas? Well, if you take the greater Sacramento area versus Placerville, it's not that much difference. As of the time of the recording of this video, in the winter of 2024, the median home price in Placerville is about $505,000. By contrast, the median home price in the greater Sacramento area is $516,000. So very similar there. However, if we're talking about the big smoke, the big city, downtown Sacramento, the downtown midtown area, then you're talking about a median home price of around $720,000. And you're getting wildly different homes at those two price points. At your median home price of $505,000 in Placerville, you're getting around a 1,700 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home on anywhere from 0.2 of an acre to a half of an acre. Now, by contrast, for your $720,000 median home price in the downtown midtown area of Sacramento, you're looking at getting anywhere from a 2-1 to, if you're lucky, a 3-2, 1,400 square foot home on a very small lot that probably needs some updating. So there is a big difference in price and a big difference in what you get for the money in the two locations. And let's face it, you're paying for all of that exciting stuff going on in the city. If that's not your jam, then you can get a much better deal on a home up in the Placerville area. But if you want everything that that downtown grid has to offer, then you're going to want to pay the midtown prices. Right about now, you're probably wondering who I am and why you should be listening to me about Sacramento, Placerville, real estate, or anything at all, really, and that's a fair question. My name is Rich Curtis, and I've been selling homes in El Dorado and Sacramento counties for nearly 20 years now, in markets ranging from the Great Recession to the COVID market insanity and everything in between. My goal with this channel is to help you make the highest quality real estate decisions you can from the comfort of your couch. In addition to that, why you should listen to me about these two towns is I have personally lived in Placerville Placerville for the last 16 years. And myself and my wife have both worked extensively in the Sacramento Valley, so I have an in-depth knowledge of these two communities. All right, now back to comparing Placerville to Sacramento to decide which one might be right for your family. Criteria number 3 when comparing Placerville to Sacramento is traffic. And here, I'm not going to bury the lead, Placerville gets the win all day long, but it is not without its traffic, so let me explain. Of course, in downtown Sacramento, there's a lot of traffic, and at peak commute times, it's a really trafficy place. Getting out to the airport early in the morning can be a real bear. Getting into downtown early in the morning can be a real bear, and even the surface streets through the city grid as everybody filters out to go to work. Remember, this is the state capital. After all, there are a lot of people working here. The traffic can be quite bad. So no matter how you slice it, if you live in Sacramento, especially in downtown Sacramento, traffic is just going to be a part of your life. Now, by contrast, in Placerville, traffic really isn't going to be a part of your daily life if you're not a commuter. If you're someone like me that works from home, I almost never experience traffic. But there are 3 types of traffic you might experience if you live in Placerville. One is commute traffic. So if you have to drive to Sacramento for work, and we'll talk more about that in the employment section of the video, then of course you're subject to Sacramento traffic anyway. Most of the people up here in the Placerville area will be self-employed and work for some of the local employers here. However, there's a big chunk that commute down the hill, and if you're in that group, you are subject to Sacramento traffic. Now, the second type of traffic you might experience here is seasonal or tourist traffic. So during the ski season, Friday night traffic can be a real bear, especially through Placerville. We still have 3 stoplights smack in the middle of the freeway in Placerville. Now, the reason for this is so that downtown Placerville doesn't dry up like all those cute little towns on Route 66 when they built the big interstate freeways that bypassed all of them. They all dried up and died, right? Because nobody stopped through those towns anymore. So our 3 little stoplights gives people an opportunity to stop, take a look to the right and say, hey, that looks like a nice restaurant in downtown Placerville. Hey, I do need some gas. Or, hey, I might have forgotten a warm layer for our ski trip. Let's pop into that store right there. Or maybe it's just too late and we're too tired. Let's grab a hotel or let's grab a beer and stay here for the night. So those 3 stoplights perform a crucial function to the Placerville economy, but there's no way around it. They cause traffic. So Friday nights during the ski season, you got ski traffic. Sunday afternoons and early evening, you've got ski traffic heading home, coming through Placerville. The other thing is the Apple Hill Festival here in the fall. That causes a lot of traffic as people come up to get a bunch of yummy apple treats, buy pumpkins for Halloween, and cut their own Christmas trees for Christmas. So that causes traffic through the downtown area. Final type of traffic you experience in the foothills here is rural traffic. And if you've never lived in a rural environment, this one might seem a little silly to you, but you get stuck behind a farmer with a big load of hay on, or a rancher with a big load of hay on, and he's going slow because he doesn't want to topple anything out of the truck. You get stuck behind someone transporting animals, lots of horses or cattle or goats or something. They don't want to be driving fast and slamming their animals around. You get stuck behind a tourist in a Winnebago who doesn't know how to drive these windy roads we've got up here. Or you come across a corner in the road and somebody's cows are out, somebody's goats are out. This happened to me and my daughter recently, where we had to spend a half an hour helping somebody get their goats back in the pen before we could head off to go on our hike. So that kind of rural traffic you experience here in Placerville. To me, I find that kind of funny and entertaining. For some of my clients who have moved from the city, that kind of stuff fries their noodle. I just lost a half an hour of my day stuck behind a hay truck or playing with goats on the side of the road. This is ridiculous, Rich, right? But for me, I think it's kind of funny. So it just depends on who you are. Far and away, you're going to deal with more traffic in Sacramento, but there are some funny types of traffic that you can learn to avoid at peak times up here in the foothills that you should know about. All right, this is the part of the video where I'm going to ask you for a small favor. It's come to my attention that almost 90% of you watching these videos are not yet subscribers to the channel. So if you can do me a quick favor, hit the like button, click subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss another video with crucial information to help you with your relocation decisions, including the many town versus town comparison videos I have coming up for you. Subscribing is always free. You can cancel at any time, and it really helps the channel. All right, now back to Placerville versus Sacramento. Criteria number 4 when comparing these two communities of Placerville and Sacramento is the cost of living. Now look, of course, the biggest line item on anybody's monthly budget is going to be their mortgage. So we've already talked about that. Median home prices in the Placerville area at $505,000, median home prices in the downtown, midtown area of Sacramento at $720,000. It's already going to cost you quite a bit more monthly to live in downtown Sacramento just because of the housing prices. Now, coming with the housing prices is your taxes, and your taxes are based on your purchase price. Higher purchase price, higher taxes. Pretty easy to understand. So when you're buying downtown Sacramento, you're going to have a higher mortgage, and part of that higher mortgage is going to be your higher taxes. When breaking that down though, the third component of your mortgage you've got, or the fourth component, you've got your principal, your interest, your taxes, and your insurance. This represents your full PITI mortgage payment. Now insurance, far and away, Sacramento is going to get the win there. Sacramento is going to have more reasonable insurance, something in the ballpark of $1,300 to $1,500 annual premiums on a regular home. Now in Placerville area, because we are in the woods and because there's been a lot of fires in California over the last decade, we suffer from higher fire insurance rates. So even in the downtown Placerville area, you're still probably looking at a minimum about $3,000 a year annual premiums. And if you're a little further out in a little higher fire score areas, you'll be up to $5,000 to $6,000 in annual premiums. And if you have a really big house, really expensive house on a lot of acreage, or you're in a really high fire severity zone, it's not unheard of to be over $10,000 a year in annual fire insurance premiums. This adds a lot to your monthly payment and a lot to your cost of living. So when you're assessing the difference in your monthly payments between a $720,000 house in downtown Midtown Sacramento and a $505,000 house in Placerville, you do have to add in the amount for insurance, and that Placerville payment is going to get a little bit closer to that Midtown payment. It's going to be 1-to-1 even. Nope, still going to be more expensive in downtown Sacramento, but the difference isn't going to be as much as you think when you factor in the fire insurance. Now, the final cost of living difference, and this is a big one, between Placerville area and Sacramento area is the cost of your monthly utilities, specifically your electricity. So Placerville, unfortunately, is on PG&E for power. PG&E is essentially the most expensive power in the state of California. Sacramento benefits from being on SMUD, the Sacramento Municipal Utilities District. SMUD rates are nearly 50% lower than PG&E. So your monthly bills to run your home are going to be nearly 50% less living in Sacramento. So there again, you have to account for that in the difference, and the cost of a home in Placerville starts creeping closer to the cost of the home in downtown Midtown. Now, it's not just the cost that's different in the power, there's also stability issues. So PG&E has grid issues, rolling blackouts, power safety shutdowns, where they shut you down for a day or two in order to stabilize the grid, that sort of thing. SMUD just doesn't deal with that. So it's cheaper power and better, more stable power. So when it comes to cost of living, you actually have to do a more nuanced breakdown between the two places, adding in the additional cost of fire insurance up in Placerville and adding in the additional cost for power up in Placerville to really see how far apart the two places are. Now, if you're having trouble with that, feel free to reach out to me via the contact information on your screen or in the description down below, and I can help walk you through that. We can pick an avatar home, one that looks like something you would buy, and kind of run the numbers on that to give you an idea of whether Placerville or downtown Sacramento will work financially for your family. Criteria number 5 when comparing Placerville to Sacramento is recreation. Now, I won't bury the lead here. In my opinion, hands down, far and away, big tick, Placerville gets the win on recreation. But there's a caveat to that. It does depend on what kind of recreation you prefer. So Placerville gets the win for outdoor recreation. We have endless trails to go hiking on, mountain biking on, backpacking on, riding your horses on, and just generally exploring and having fun outdoors. We have the South Fork of the American River just 15 minutes to the north of here. Actually, the put-in for one of the runs is just 5 to 10 minutes outside of town. That's the second most commercially rafted river in the country and gives you access to whitewater rafting, whitewater kayaking, whitewater paddle boarding. People do gold mining, prospecting, and panning along the river and those sorts of things as well. We are just an hour from the nearest ski resort here in Placerville, maybe a little bit shorter depending on how you drive. So we have skiing real close right nearby. So Placerville is an absolute mecca for outdoor adventure sports, and that's not even getting into the rock climbing and the paragliding and all the other things that you can do up here. It really is an amazing place if you are into outdoor recreation. Now, Sacramento is not without its recreational opportunities. They do have a pretty extensive trail system, especially with the American River Trail, where you can do a lot of great road biking in the area. They do have the Delta running through there. If you're a power boating enthusiast, the Delta has great opportunities to go and explore and take advantage of power boating. Both places are about equally as close to Folsom for some more power boating options as well. Now, when it comes to something like golf, Placerville really only has access to the Apple Mountain Golf Course, which is an excellent golf course and views that you can't imagine. If you're a golfer, I highly recommend you come play Apple Mountain, but that's about it. So if you like golf, the Sacramento area, especially being able to go over and access, Rockland and Lincoln area where there's a ton of golf courses, Sacramento is going to win if you're a golfer. Sacramento is going to win if you're a road biker. Otherwise, for anything else, for recreation, Placerville absolutely gets the win. All right, criteria number 6 when comparing these two communities is heat. Now, look, these are both hot places. Both of them are going to be in the 80s and 90s most of the summer and a fair few triple-digit days. But Sacramento is far and away going to have more triple-digit days than Placerville because of the elevation. Placerville being at 1,800 to 2,400 feet above sea level, depending on where you are in town, gets that little bit cooler. We're going to be 5 to 10 degrees cooler than Sacramento on an average hot day. So when Sacramento's in triple digits, we might not be, and that makes a big difference. Now, the one thing where Sacramento actually gets the win is cooling off in the evenings. So in the evenings, the hot air from Sacramento tends to run into the river canyons and rise up the canyons into Placerville, and we stay kind of hot later into the evening. Whereas Sacramento, depending on where you live, benefits from the delta breezes, and this is no joke. The delta breezes really do cool it off nicely in Sacramento in the evening. So for that sort of 7 to 9 o'clock t-shirt, drinking a beer on the porch, perfect temperature, you're gonna get that earlier in the evening and more often in Sacramento than you will in Placerville. In Placerville, you are likely to run your air conditioning later into the evening before you can open the house up because that heat from Sacramento is still hanging around up here in Placerville. So it's gonna be hotter in Sacramento. It's gonna be triple digits more often in Sacramento, but you do get some nice cooling off in the evenings down there. You'll have to decide which you prefer for your family, but no matter how you slice it, if you hate the heat, if you don't like hot summers, neither of these places are gonna be right for your family. Look, if at the end of this video you still aren't sure if Sacramento's right for you or Placerville, you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me via the contact information on your screen or in the description down below. Like I said, I've been selling homes here for nearly 20 years, and I've helped hundreds of families just like yours decide where to land in Sacramento and El Dorado counties, and I'm always happy to help. All right, now back to Placerville versus Sacramento. Criteria number 7 when evaluating whether you want to live in Placerville or Sacramento is the school system. Look, if you've got kids and you're relocating anywhere, schools and researching the schools is the tops on your list of things to consider when moving to a new community. And I won't bury the lead here. Both places have really great schooling. The scores on greatschools.org for our schools up here in the foothill are 7 out of 10 or higher for most of the schools and 9 out of 10 or higher for almost all of our high schools. So the education here in the foothills in the Placerville area is awesome. It is really high quality education and you can't go wrong. But look, Sacramento is just a bigger area. They're going to have more varying scores depending on where you live. You're going to have access to some really high quality education and some other places not so much. But what you will have access to across the board is more options. Sacramento has invested heavily in alternative education models and in education more broadly, and they've done a really excellent job in my opinion. So if you live in Sacramento, you're going to have so much more access to charter schools, schools of choice, alternative education models, that sort of thing. So if that's important to your family, then Sacramento would get the win there. If you're just talking about everyday public schools in your neighborhood, both places are going to be awesome for that. But if you're the type of family that wants a lot of school choice and that wants to pick from some alternative models or has some really specific educational pathways you want your kids on, that is going to be a Sacramento thing. There's just not as much choice up here in Placerville because it's a small place. Criteria number 8, and the last criteria on our list, but certainly not least, is employment. You gotta eat, so you gotta work. So where are you gonna do that? Now, look, there's no doubt, and you didn't need to watch a video for someone to tell you, there's gonna be a lot more employment options in Sacramento, the capital of California, than in the sleepy little mountain town of about 11,000 people of Placerville. However, don't discount Placerville completely. There is actually a pretty thriving job scene here, and you do have a high likelihood of being able to live and work in the same community if you live in Placerville. So let me explain. In Sacramento, you have, and in the Sacramento region, you have one of the largest and most diverse job markets in the state of California. I think Sacramento just doesn't carry the same cachet as San Francisco or LA, and people really kind of count it out. But the thing is, it really has an amazing job market. We have a massive healthcare sector with huge employers like Kaiser and Blue Cross and all of the other, smaller surgery centers and industries and doctors' offices supporting that huge health care infrastructure. We have UC Davis healthcare infrastructure in the greater Sacramento area that employs an absolute massive amount of people. We have the state capital, so you have all the political jobs. You have all of the state jobs. You have all of the supporting jobs just to make the capital run. And then you have the amazing restaurant scene. Sacramento is the farm to fork capital of California, and there is a thriving restaurant and nightlife scene giving a lot of food jobs and jobs in bars and restaurants and all of that. Not to mention massive retail there as well. So Sacramento has a tremendous job market. And if you live in Placerville, it's only about a 45-minute drive, so you can access that via commute if you'd like to. Now, Placerville, although it is a small town, about 11,000 people for the 5.5 square miles that is downtown Placerville. More broadly, the 95667 zip code has about 36,000 people. Still a very small place compared to Sacramento, but we do have some major employers that help quite a bit. So if you work in healthcare, again, we have Marshall Hospital and all of the other little surgery centers and doctors' offices and all of that feed into the Marshall Health system. So if you work in healthcare, you've got a high likelihood of being able to live and work in Placerville. We have a pretty large school district, certainly not as large as Sacramento, but we've got several school districts, and there are a lot of education jobs here in Placerville. And something a lot of people don't realize about Placerville is it is the county seat of El Dorado County, and as such, we have all of the county jobs based right here in Placerville. We also are continuing to get more and more sort of big box retail employers in Placerville. We have Target, we have Walmart, we are just about to open an America's Tires. We have some pretty big retail employers coming in as well. And then we have all of the smaller retail and restaurant jobs in our cute little historic downtown. So while there is, of course, no comparison between the job market in Sacramento and the job market in Placerville, for a small town, Placerville has a tremendous amount of job opportunity for you. So unless you're in a specific sector that you just can't get a job in Placerville, I wouldn't let this one criteria rule it out. But just by the numbers, far and away, Sacramento gets the win when it comes to the job market. All right, that wraps up our discussion of Placerville versus Sacramento. And I hope this information has helped you decide which one might be right for your family. Now, if you want to do a deeper dive on either one, you're still not sure, go ahead and click this video right here for the pros and cons of living in Placerville. And if you want to do a deeper dive into Sacramento, click this video right here for the pros and cons of living in Sacramento. And if you want to see more town versus town comparison videos like this to try to decide where you want to live, including all of the Sacramento suburbs and all of the small towns around Placerville, click this playlist right here for my town versus town comparison videos. Either way, I really appreciate you watching. Thanks for making it to the end with me, and I'll see you on the next one.